Dear learners, welcome to the session which is specific aims of teaching history. Learning objective of this session is to understand the aims of teaching history at various levels. After completing this session, you will be able to evaluate the aims of teaching history in today's context. Following are the aims of teaching history at primary stage. NCERT publication has described these aims in effective teaching of history in the year 1970. Knowledge of the why of things in the local environment of a child in which he is particularly interested. For example, the child may be interested in a fair annually held in the village. He may be helped to know about the origin and development of the fair. Knowledge in regarding to the origin and development of the fair would not mean anything more than the knowledge of the most important relevant events in their proper sequence, just like the events of a story. Next is knowledge of interesting events. This is from the pupil point of view. In life of a few great men or of true stories in regard to interesting things having historical significance in which the child may be interested through his local environment and which to a certain extent may illuminate his state and national environment in reference to past happenings. Next is knowledge of such happenings in the world which might interest the child and which might lay the foundation of international understanding in him by broadening his mental outlook. After this is development of some ideas regarding the distinction between events described in history and those described in stories. This may not be considered as too difficult to achieve by students of primary school stage if we follow the proper method. For example, the study of local history through the source method may lead to the development of the necessary insight. Next is the development of history in the study of history should also be taken as one of the aims for history study at this stage, as our pupils are usually interested in examinations only and are not interested in any study for its own sake. This aim of the study of history deserves special emphasis and special efforts should be made to realize it. Aims of teaching history at the junior secondary stage. The pupils at this stage should develop some insight into the use of historical methods and they should have some idea of how history may be constructed from original sources. Next is the understanding of the causal relationship between historical happenings are expected to reach such a level at this stage that pupils might be able to have some insight into the process of framing historical laws and utilizing them for predictions. For example, they should be able to draw the following conclusion from the facts studied in history regarding the French Revolution, other things being equal when the social, political, and economic frustrations of the general mass of people in a social group reaches an unbearable point. Revolution is bound to break out. With this law as the basis, the pupils may discuss whether India has reached the point of revolution at the moment or not, and what India might do to avert a revolution. Aims of teaching history at secondary stage. The intellectual maturity of pupils at this stage reaches almost adult standards. The main focus at this level is on the stages in the growth of human civilizations and the evolution of social systems and on cultural and scientific development. The main aims of teaching history at this stage are to promote an understanding of the process of change. History is the only change that can unfold the process of change and developments through which human societies have evolved to their present stage of development. Next is to acquire knowledge of significant world events. The pupils through the learning of history gets the knowledge of happening outside the life of the nation which are significant to the life of the world as a social group or significant to some happening in the life of the nation, such as French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, etc. Next is to promote an understanding of the common roots of human civilization. All major civilizations of the world have common roots, leaving aside some major local characteristics. Most of them have common features which point to the basic unity of mankind. One of the important aims of history is to point to the basic unity. Next aim is to develop an appreciation of the contributions made by various cultures. The cultures of different countries have contributed in one way or the other to the total heritage of mankind. History can bring this to the knowledge of the pupils, and that is to be understood and appreciated. The last aim of teaching history at secondary stage is to develop an understanding of causal relationship. By the understanding of the causal relationship between historical happenings, pupils may be able to have some insight into the process of framing historical laws and utilizing them for prediction. For example, from the facts studied in history regarding the French Revolution, they may be able to conclude that other things being equal, when the social, political, and economic frustrations of the general mass of people in a social group reaches an unbearable point, revolution is bound to break out then. With this law as the basis, the pupils may discuss whether India has reached the point of revolution at the moment or not, and what India might do to avert a revolution.